the place you're at now is definitely pretty different compared to where you were when you started out.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. First started out, I had no idea of what to do at all in this field. I started out really by doing my own research, trying to find as much content out there as possible to try and help me figure out what do I do to like make a career out of like this degree that I'm doing. Because I think the number one thing I was thinking when I came into OSU is like, I want to come out with a job, and I'm really scared if that might not happen. So I was really pressured freshman year to go out and do my own research, and I didn't know about clubs at that time. So I didn't have the people in the clubs to help me, like give me advice or anything like that. That's why I talk about the importance of mentorship. I didn't really have that to start. So I spent a lot of extra time myself just researching, okay, what do I need to do to get from knowing nothing to like a career in CS or like software engineering. And so to summarize, to keep it kind of short, that's like the first thing I did. And over time, I figured out that there's kind of like three main things really you need to do. First off, there's school, and there's leak code or technical interview prep, and then there's learning the actual skills like that are required for the job, and balancing those three. And there's probably a few others, but I think those are the main three. And balancing those three is honestly the biggest. Like, those are the three you need to balance essentially throughout your entire time in CS at OSU, aside from like outside life and things like that. Solely talking about career stuff. And yeah, so figuring out that balance freshman year, I think I did kind of figure it out. And I put a lot of time into learning the leak code side and learning the project side and less on the school side, which in some ways helped me a lot. And then my GPA does not like that, but it did help me a lot to where at this point I'm doing really well, and I don't actually have to put as much effort in now because I learned so much my freshman year and maybe like freshman summer, and I guess all throughout last year as well. But putting that work early helped me so much. So I don't know if you want me to touch into like each of those fundamentals or maybe like my advice on that, but that summarizes my freshman year, like what I realized.
Yeah, I guess you can just go into that.
Yeah, for sure. So talk about school, kind of a controversial opinion, I'd say, but putting in less work in school early on helped me a lot, and put more focus into those two things I mentioned, which is, I guess, interview prep and I guess just learning your skills and learning the skills that are applicable to the field. I think interview prep should not come first, I think, which is a controversial opinion. For CS, that means leak code. I think focusing on learning the fundamentals well in your school does teach you the fundamentals, but freshman year for CS students is a little weird because you don't actually get to do a CS class until like spring term. But learning it either through school or through your own learning is actually, I feel like, more important than going to skip ahead to something like leak code. I think, and it's actually really difficult to skip ahead to leak code. So you'll actually slow yourself down, I think, a lot if you try and skip to interview prep early on. I think that's something I did, was skip to interview prep, and it did help me, but I would say just learning the fundamentals would have gotten me to my position much quicker, because there's a lot of times where you'd have to backtrack and learn something that you skipped over in the fundamentals. So that's my advice for that. We can talk a little bit about, I guess, the school side, though. Yeah, there's challenging courses that come in your OSU CS degree or degree in general, whichever one you're taking. But I do remember one experience we had, which with Havel, which was vector calc last winter, pretty sure. So almost a year ago at this point. Yeah, Havel, do you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, in the CS degree, there's a lot of weed out classes, right? 162, assembly, algos, operating systems. But vector calc, I'm pretty sure we're both doing the applied track, right? Yeah. So, and the applied track, vector calculus is a required class for that. So we both winter term took Vector Calc 1, and that class was definitely an experience for sure. When we talk about how focusing less on school can be beneficial, it takes a little bit of stress off of you when you're taking a class like that.
Yeah.
I guess what was our experience like?
Well, I guess it was it was a shocker. I think at first exam, I would say it was like too easy. So it kind of like kept us off our guard, I'd say. And then that second one, I'm pretty sure was the hardest, I think.
It throws you off a lot.
So be careful when you're like taking effort off school to either do other stuff in CS or just other aspects of your life, because it's more likely you'll just like want to like do more things outside of school, or CS or whatever. So be careful, especially when you're taking vector calc and 162 and 271, because you definitely have to put a lot more effort in those classes. Also machine learning, if you're ever interested in taking machine learning, that's also another tough one from what I've heard. I was going to take it this term, but I ended up dropping it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about vector calc? I guess I talked about what I thought, but
yeah, I thought it was definitely, one of those classes. I remember how like I would be texting you and I'll be like, yo, have you pulled up to the lectures?
Oh yeah.
And you were like, nah, because I hadn't seen you in like weeks.
Yeah.
I would see you at the clubs. Like we would see each other at the clubs, but we wouldn't be going to the lectures because, major respect to teachers all around. But, vector calc teachers, they're definitely different breed, and, different teachers may not work for everyone. Personally, I didn't feel like the vector calc experience worked too well for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little hard to follow. So, yeah, I would be texting you, I'd be like, dude, where you at? Like, it's been a minute. And I remember, like, do you remember that day when we were studying for the final? It was at like 4 p.m.
In the library, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on like a Monday or something? I don't remember, but I remember we pulled up at like noon and we were there till like 5 or 6 p.m. and
we were grinding out the homeworks.
We were doing the achieves.
We were writing out the homeworks
on
the
God.
Day of the final instead of studying for the final, which like
because the achieves, they also constituted like a big chunk of the grade, and they also had a system where if you every day you miss it, you lose 2% on each one, and then there was like the recitations that we would also have to go to.
Yeah, those 2%, it's kind of addicting to like say like, oh, I'll just do it the next day. That's how they get you with that vector calc. So watch out for that.
And then it starts building
fall
up.
into the 2% trap.
Yeah, it just starts building up, and then you check it like a week later, and you're like, oh,
wow, 10%. Oh, that's getting a little weirder.
Yeah. So I remember that night. Yeah, I remember after that night we took the exam, and then I specifically remember you sitting next to me, and then you like opening the test, and then we both just collectively went, just that deep breath of, oh, this is gonna be one of those tests. And then afterwards, it was like pitch black, and like you, me, and like 2 other people, we were just outside debriefing after the test, and we were like, did you get that answer? Did you get this one? And yeah.
Honestly, that's me with every test. I'm just like trying to see how I did, but especially with vector calc.
Vector was definitely one of those.
Nobody had a consensus.
Yeah.
Like everyone we talked to, I'm pretty sure we could not figure out. I think there's maybe some questions we were like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we got it right.
But
pretty sure.
Everyone had something different. Yeah. It was wild.
Honestly, yeah, it was a good experience though. I mean, in terms of that final study experience.
I feel like that aspect, like the tough moments really brought us together. In general, I feel like every time I go through a tough experience with someone, that's like a bonding moment. And I definitely feel like vector calc was our like, okay, like we're in this together kind of moment.
Yeah, those are good memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be school. It could be tough moments in
exactly.
life.
Yeah.
Look, tough moments are always bad, but they end up being the most memorable.
Yeah.
I'd say.
And I feel like, when you look back on like friendships and experiences you've had with people, you remember the bad moments, but you remember like what you went through with the person, and you're like, okay, like, we were in it together, so that made it less bad.
Yeah.
At least.
kind of a sidetrack, but I'm just curious. It's a random question. Would you say the harder moments, you remember more harder moments in your life or more positive moments? Like, what are the moments you remember the most?
Ooh.
Because I don't know, just random thought popped up in my head.
This is like almost philosophical,
Yeah,
but I think you remember the bad moments more. It's easier to remember those. It takes a little effort to remember good moments.
Yeah, you actually have to reflect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually looking back and trying to remember the good moments is actually super important, I think. But yeah, that's a good thought. Because, like, yeah, definitely the bad thoughts do stay in your head. Or the bad moments stay in your head more, for sure. I think you should, anyway. We're getting a little sidetracked, but it was a interesting question.
Yeah, I feel like actually adding on to that.
Yeah,
this might we might be getting sidetracked, but this is a good one.
Yeah.
Do you look back at like your mindset in the times where you were like concerned about the future? You were talking about how when you were when you were when you were a freshman, you were so concerned about getting a job after college and you were so worried about those things. But do you think about how, like, when you look back, you realize how little there was to be worried about, you know?
I think it's easy. So that's definitely something that has come up recently in my mind. But I think it's easy for me to say that because I actually did have success. I feel like not everyone does succeed, of course. So having that mindset freshman year, like early on in my degree, was definitely helped me out a lot. Would I regret it? I don't know if that's the question you're wondering, or but do I regret having those thoughts of like, or do I think it's easy? Yeah, it's a tough one. I would say,
or I guess, like, does that change your mindset of, or I guess, I don't know, like, do you feel like, I think you worrying about it at the time was definitely good, and it pushed you to become who you are today.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess looking back, when you think about, like, the mindset you're in, I guess it puts a little less pressure on you now. You're like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah, okay. I would say it definitely wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, because I really thought the jump from, like, knowing nothing to, like, knowing everything or having a career was, like, humongous, but it's actually not that much. It's a lot of very small steps you have to take, a lot of consistent steps you have to take over the course of your college experience. And they're not that many steps. Like, I don't think I actually put in that much effort to get where I'm at right now. I put in a lot of effort, but comparatively to what I thought it was, it's actually not that much. And I think a lot of students end up thinking that barrier to success is a lot larger than it actually is. So I'd say, yes, to summarize it, I'd say it's more easier than I thought it was. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's my advice. I'd say, like, it's actually not as big as you might think. It's still big, and you still need to put in the work, but it's not as big as you might think. And hopefully that motivates you. But